You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have another show lineup for y'all. Today, we have an honor talking to our special guest, Kathi Lockwood. She's a woman who has a life story that reads like a novel. When it comes to resilience, when it comes to hope, and when it comes to divine inspiration, she has all that. She is going to share with us not just her background, her professional background, but she's also an educator, a mother, grandmother, and children's book author who really dives in deeply in creating a lot of amazing content for you to enjoy. So first and foremost, I want to say to Kathi, how are you doing today? And appreciate your time.
I am well, and thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate that.
When you look at your background, what got you excited for writing and writing books? Because that is something that you don't just be like, let's turn on the light switch and I just do it one day. You gotta have to plan it out a little bit. So what was your process like?
Well, it was all inspired by my life. And my first book was written when my son was around, I think, 7 years old. And he was adopted. He came home from school one day crying and pouting. And I didn't know what his problem was until finally he told me that one of his friends told him I wasn't his real mommy. And this just destroyed this young boy. And I have a very strong spiritual lens that I look at life through in all situations. And I believe that children, whether they're adopted or born into a family, are there because that is just divine will. God wanted that child to be mine, and that he came through and was delivered by another woman was still a blessing to me, and he was still divinely my boy. I have two girls that were born to me. And so I felt that, of course, I'm your mommy. God gave you to me to be your mommy, and I wanted that to be fully explained and clear to him and any other adopted child, because adopted children in many ways have abandonment issues. And I've learned a lot more about that over the years, because my first book was probably 25 or 30 years ago. And I felt it very important that the children understand that they were not given away, but they were delivered to the parents that God wanted them to have. And that's when I wrote my first book. And I don't know how I came up with the story, but the two little angels and cherubs in the waiting to be born heaven, and they learn how to do all the little baby things. And when they learn those baby things, they get a star on their halo. And when they get enough stars on their halo, the great guardian angel tells them, these are does a little chant and the clouds part. And she says, these are the parents that God wants you to have. And Charlie will be born to his parents, and Amy will be delivered to them. And so I felt it's just a very important paradigm shift in the whole theme of adoption. And I wrote that book for him and for all adopted children.
When you look at your life and how it's definitely had influence on how you write, what was probably the hardest part of your journey, and how do you see writing enabling strength for you to get through those rough chapters?
Well, in a very surreal way, my new book I've been writing, and I've just finished working with the illustrator, so it's going to be coming out relatively soon, is about death and the survival of the spirit. And while I'm in the middle of writing this book, I just got like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I found out my own dog has like melanoma, and I just got off the phone with the vet like a few minutes ago, actually, and he's like, there's nothing you can do except keep them comfortable and happy. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm writing this book about the survival of the spirit and how, dogs have spirits too. And so I'm hoping to get strength from my own book when my own dog dies. That's just a horrible thing to say, but that's what I'm going through right now. And that book will be dedicated to my Monet, who probably will not live to see the first copy. But like I said, there's the spirit of everyone and everything that always lives on. And I've understood that. Obviously, we feel that way with our people we know, our parents and grandparents. As they pass on, they give us little signs that they're still here, they still love us, they're still thinking about us. Love never dies is the theme of my book. And that's actually what my mother told me right after she died. I talked to her and she said, "Oh, first thing, love never dies." And so it's a serious issue, death. I mean, my husband, as you might have seen in my bio, was killed one day just crossing the street and left me with 3, preteen and almost teen kids. And that was, again, a very tough thing, but still to this day, that was 22 years ago. And to this day, I know that he has disappeared, but he's never died. So I just believe that, and I see signs of it. Doesn't bring him back, but I do feel comfort from knowing that he's around, watching over the children when I can't. She's over in Indonesia. You take care of it. I can't watch her from here.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Kathi Lockwood. You can go to her website, booksbykathi.com. When you mention Love Never Dies, I can't agree more with that, because life is life. That's the best way I can put it. Sometimes it gives you a fastball and you can hit a home run, and other times it'll throw you curveballs and sliders and change-ups, and you don't even know how to swing the bat. When you get in those moments, though, when life, not to be cliche, throws you lemons, you have to make some lemonade, make the best of it. What are some of the things that you're able to find comfort? Because I noticed you have a lot with connection to the spiritual side, and that brings comfort and memories. But outside of that, what else do you find also gives you that comfort and drive to say, this might be a rough patch, I might be going through it right now, but there's some bigger stuff to worry about than this small little piece of the chapter?
I practice on a daily basis appreciation and gratitude, even before I get out of bed. Sometimes going through the worst of my times, I would just lie there and say, okay, I'm grateful that, the leaves are such a beautiful green, and whatever I could think of to appreciate. I've always felt that appreciation is the secret to happiness, because when you're in a state of appreciation, you're happy about something, whatever it is. You have that feeling of joy about something when you appreciate. So I think appreciation is the secret to happiness. And when I'm at my lowest points, I do remind myself of that, and then I practice exercises to get myself into a state of appreciation so I can feel better about whatever is going on. I guess we all do.
You've been able to study both education and ministry. When you think about how divine speaks through our lives, through experiences, was some powerful moments where you're like, wow, this must be a sign that things are going to be okay. And, not only am I going to be able to continue my journey in life, but I'm going to continue to thrive and keep pushing forward no matter what circumstance come my way.
Well, I'll tell you the story about when my mother died. I talked about how I talked to her after she died, but it took me a couple months because I meditate regularly, and while I was meditating, I would speak to her, and I would feel that she was speaking to me. And a whole year went by. And then one day I was vacationing in Ocean City, New Jersey, and that's where my mother had lived before she passed. And when she died, I called her maintenance man because she needed the person living in the apartment in the same building as my mom needed help with a screen door or something. But a year goes by, and now I'm there for a week, and I'm at the beach, and I'm meditating, and I finally say, Mom, this is it. I don't know if I'm talking to you or listening to me talk to you and me answer myself. I'm not really sure. So if you don't, I want to sign right now, Mom. And I'm like, I want to sign right now and that I'm really talking to you. And so I got up from my meditation, walked over to put water on for tea. And before the water boiled, my husband, who was on the front porch, started calling me, Kathleen Lockwood, is Kathleen Lockwood here? And I'm like, why is he doing this? So silly, he knows I'm inside. And I go outside, and there, standing outside the door of the porch, was my mother's maintenance man. And I was floored, but she somehow got him there at that moment, 14 months after I made a phone call and never heard from him again. And he just decided that day to go fix the door. And the woman said, well, you want to see Kathy? She's over there. And then he walked over, and then he ran across town to come look for me. And those are the things that, it just makes me fully understand that, the spirit lives on, love lives on. And that's such an important concept because there's so much tragedy in the world. And I'd like to think that there is some way that we don't have to be as devastated by it as it seems that we are. I mean, granted, we are, but then there's a way out. There's a way out.
And two, I would add how you choose to look at things, how we choose to react to certain things. It kind of reveals what we're made up with. And if we don't like it, well, we have chance while we have air in our lungs to shift directions. But at the end of the day, whatever is going on the outer world, whatever is going on up here, you have to make those choices. And those sometimes are easy choices, and sometimes it takes a little bit more. Well, let's make that our decision choice. For you, as a writer, I mean, it's not easy to just write, and then publish. It feels easy. Everyone will be doing it. Obviously, not everyone's doing it. And plus, the readers will tell you if they're not feeling it. So when you look at the process of how you have to write and organize your thoughts and the chapters, I mean, you're talking about fatigue and, maybe some fire going on in the mind, because it's like at some point you're gonna have to take a break. So
right.
When you look at the process of just trying to organize your writing, how do you keep that balance of not allowing distractions to cloud what you're trying to produce?
Well, I think it's what we focus on. Like, I think how we focus, what we want to focus on, is how I do it. If I consciously choose what I want to believe in. Even there's a Gabor Mate, who's one of the Dr. Gabriel Mata, one of the experts in addiction, for instance, he said something like, we don't need to argue with our feelings, but we can change our beliefs. And I've always chosen to focus on a belief that is more comforting than a belief that's not. So when I do my writing, actually the last book almost every book I've written has come to me all at once. Just the basic story. My book, The King and the Monster, was written after my son went into a long-term rehab for an addiction problem he had. And my daughter-in-law called me and said, will you please write a book so I can explain to my daughter, my grandchild, she was 6 years old, why her dad had to move away. So I'm like, sure, I'll write a book for you. And it's like, how am I going to write a story about addiction that's so complex and have it to be something that is easily understood by a 6-year-old? And so I sort of put it out of my mind for a week or so. And then at one point I went into a deep meditation and I had my eyes closed and I was on a long flight to LA in the middle of the night and started meditating. And this whole story came to me, the title, the pages, everything, the visuals, many of the visuals. And as soon as, it was just like, as soon as it was over, I figured I better write this down right away. And so I pull out my laptop and I'm typing away in the middle of the night on a 30,000 feet. But that's how the book came to me. Now, then I took that and talked to different therapists and they said, well, this and a little tweak here and a little tweak there. I talked to people who have been through addiction. I talked to people in the treatment programs, and they were like fine tuning little sentences and just sort of fine tuning the story so that it would be the most helpful for any of the readers. And I think it's written as a children's picture book, but I think I think a lot of adults can also benefit from it. I was at a book signing one time and a young 20-ish young lady came up and I was going through the book with her and explaining the story as we're looking at the illustrations, and she started crying. And she's like, oh, this was my father. And so, she bought a book and she took it home with her. And I think the crying was caused because it explains addiction. My book on The King and the Monster explains addiction as something that is a trap that someone falls into. Nobody intends to get addicted. No one intends to lose their family or intends to have all the suffering that for the addicted person and the family. No one intends to do that. So again, my book is a paradigm shifting book. And I think it was just a gift to me. I think I have some angel up there helping me write, quite honestly, because people say, why did you use The King and the Monster? And I'm like, I don't know. That's what I saw when I closed my eyes, The King and the Monster. So that's what I wrote. That's why I titled it. So I think that there's some angel up there helping me put things together. And then I do the nitty gritty work, but the main story is already out there and given to me. And that's basically how any of my books are written, including the one on my newest one on, it's called Two Sparks of Love. And it's a dog and a little girl come into the world together, and then the dog leaves first. So
it's crazy how ideas can spark all of this. I mean, you shared about the idea coming to you, and then the process of you dwelling on it and thinking about it, meditating on it, being on a long flight. I mean, that's amazing. And then it leads to another door and another door. And then you're fine tuning even more. It made me think of, like there's some quotes, I think, I might have to paraphrase it, but there's a Michelangelo quote somewhere, and it talks about carving the marble until it sets free what's inside that marble. Like, that's what you're saying, basically. You had this idea. It was inside this marble, and you kept chipping away. You kept going, kept working on the project. You kept going to these other resources of professionals to fine tune it and make it even more powerful, to the very moment that you had someone crying.
Yes.
It's amazing just the process. And you said the word gift. It's amazing how the process of us, when we are not just staying true to our gift, but we're molding it throughout time.
Right.
And when that person was crying, had tears, like I used to say in the barbershop back in the days, doing the show, that sometimes our pain is someone else's medicine, because if we were able to survive, that I believe is a sign that we are either called, picked to do something that's bigger than ourselves, and it's going to help somebody who could be going through what we already survived.
Well, I think that's like one of the most beautiful things I've heard recently. And that is so true, because when you are going through some kind of pain, you want to find some reason or why is this? Why do I have to feel this? Why am I going through this right now? And I guess it gives me comfort to know that when I'm going through the pain, if I can see my way through it and help other people see their way through it, then it gives some reason, gives some logic for why it's even happening. So there's always, make lemon out of lemonade or lemonade out of lemons or whatever. But I think we're here as a one unified humanity, and everything that we can do to help another is helping ourselves and the other. When we look at ourselves, when we help someone else, we're helping ourselves. When we help ourselves, we're helping somebody else. But, it's, like Christ said, what you do unto me, what you do unto your neighbor, you do unto me. I think that's true. And I think that we do that. Whatever we do to help anybody in this world is helping everyone, because we're all like one humanity. And we're blessed with the divine life in each one of us, which is my Christmas story, by the way. So, I did the Christmas story based on that theme, that we all have the divine life of God within us. And when we can witness that in someone else, then we witness it through our own eyes, of our own divine eyes, see the divinity in the others.
When you think about pain and sacrifice, those are two things most people are not going to raise their hands and say, I volunteer for that one. Yeah, that project, no one, if we're honest, raises their hand and say, okay, if this involves pain and sacrifice, count me in. For the most part, if we're human enough to admit to it, we want to turn away, run as fast as we can, and avoid that. But sometimes maybe the greater pain is when we try to avoid it. Maybe the pain of going through it was necessary, so that way we can have something that we learn from it or appreciate. Because touch on that before we wrap up, about the sacrifice you had to make to write these stories and to reach the type of success you have as an author. I mean, were those sacrifices worth it for you? What do you think?
I don't think you can live a life without experiencing those things. And it isn't a choice. It's just the way it goes. So I think that for me, helping other people through some of the trauma that I've already been through is it gives me peace and gives me a sense of comfort, and I think I'm coming up with the word grace, but grace is shared. When we experience grace and we share grace, then it's a beautiful thing. So I wouldn't choose to do those things, to have my son be so sad over his adoption or my husband dying or whatever the sadness is, but I wouldn't choose them. But once they are there and I have to work my way through them, maybe I can help someone else work their way through them. And that's what gives me a sense of peace and comfort.
Well, if you want some peace and comfort, you need to listen to the show again. This is a good episode to share with someone who might be needing some kind of encouragement or just want something to feel nice and warm, because this was a great warm conversation. And I feel like people definitely appreciate your work and where you're coming from. Because I feel like a lot of times how we approach what we're doing in life, but most importantly, where we're coming from with it. If we come from a point of grace, if you will, if we come from a point of resilience, of I'm never going to quit, there's something powerful when you have that kind of approach. I just had a conversation before we hopped on with your conversation today. And when we think about how we sometimes get into these traps, sometimes it could be the best thing that ever happened to a person, not necessarily the worst. Because again, how you respond in those situations defines you.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the issue. The issue can be a tool to stretch you. But
exactly.
If you don't have a good source that you're coming from, it might tear you completely apart. But again, how you choose to react is the defining moment.
Absolutely. And it is a choice. It is a choice. It may seem like there's not a choice, but there's always a choice how you react, how you respond to what happens. And it's your response that gives it power or not.
Well, once again, you've been listening to Refocus Radio and watching us online. Just like always, you can find all our shows on our website, refocusradio.com. We've been talking to our guest, Kathi Lockwood. Go to her website, booksbykathi.com. If you have anything you want to tease for our audience, if you have some teasers that you might be able to preview with us in the future for projects, what's some things that you have cooking?
Well, the one that I mentioned about the two spirits coming into the world together, they're chatting with each other as they leave the source of all light and love. And they decide, let's be friends. And they were both born into the same home. And one was born a puppy and one was born a little girl. And they grow up together. And then the puppy dies. And the little girl starts she has to find a way, and it's her choice. She's like crying, and then she says, Sparky wouldn't want me to cry all the time. What can I do to make myself feel better? And so Sparky is the dog now, a ghost dog, and he's pointing to her little brother's room. So she goes in and hugs her little brother, and she feels better. And so she takes the action on what she can do for herself to feel better after the loss of her good friend, her puppy, Sparky. And in the end of the book, she starts finding balls all over the place. And one of the balls she finds is in the front seat of a car. And she says to her mother, do you think Sparky's leaving these balls here to let me know he still loves me? And she says, I think you know the answer to that. And that night she has a dream. And in her dream, she's playing ball with Sparky. And Sparky sprouts wings and starts flying around and catching the balls. And they all are laughing all night because now in this new life of Sparky's, he can do more. He can fly. And the last page of the book illustrates, basically, I guess you'd call it the circle of life, because this little girl, she has Sparky, who's already passed. She has more sparks of light coming to her in the future, more friends and husband and children, and all of her future loves coming to her, and all of the past loves that she's lost are still there. So the longer we live our life, the greater our love is, because we never lose all the love that we've always had, and there's always a new love coming towards us, and with new friends and family and babies and puppies. So that's my new book, and it will be out and it's called 2 Sparks of Love, and it will be out probably in about 2 months now or less.
Well, if you want to keep tabs on what she's doing, go to Kathi's website, booksbykathi.com. You can find out all the information that she has available, support her books from the past, present, and future. Like I always want to say to you, always to our guests, thank you for your time.
And thank you. It's been a delight speaking to you. You're a wonderful man.